You're listening to Track Talk with the Racing Boys, brought to you by McCarthy Chevrolet in Olathe, or visit them online at McCarthyChevyKC.com.
It's Track Talk here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Phone lines are open, 913-381-810, 913-381-810. Quickly, we will get to the phones. Chris, hang on just for a second, but I got to ask Kirk, first of all, you think that Carl Edwards shouldn't have been penalized, right?
Yeah, and for everybody that doesn't know, of course, if anybody watched the race, knows that Carl Edwards, who dominated the race at Richmond last week with about 90 laps to go, was starting side by side on the front row with Tony Stewart.
Right.
And he was penalized for jumping the restart.
As he should have been.
And did he move out in front of Tony Stewart before the zone? That zone? The answer is yes, but I contend that it was more Tony Stewart slowing up, spinning his tires, and maybe even playing games with Carl Edwards.
That's a moot point, Kirk. None of that matters. None of that, what you're saying,
Carl
matters.
Edwards, his spotter was told, and he thought he was the leader of the race.
And that doesn't matter.
Technically, it doesn't matter.
None of that matters.
But here's my problem with the double file restarts in NASCAR. Every other place that runs double file restarts, including our local short tracks, have what they call the Delaware double file restarts, where the leader is all alone.
That's not what NASCAR does, so that doesn't matter.
NASCAR should do the same thing, so there is no confusion of who the leader is. And
Kirk, none of this matters. The fact is, the rule is they don't start like that, so forget about that.
But the leader does have control of the start,
which was Tony Stewart.
Most restarts, and if you're single file,
Tony Stewart was the leader,
and Carl thought he was the leader, and he didn't. It was close. But he didn't really move out in front and accelerate until right at the zone. They should have let it go.
It was clearly at least a car and a half or 2 car lengths.
What was he supposed to do, slam on the brakes and cause a big wreck?
No.
And this just encourages more gamesmanship on restarts
Kirk,
for what Tony Stewart was doing.
All this you're talking about doesn't matter. See, you're missing the point. He started before the start zone. And nothing else matters. Nothing matters.
It does matter because Carl did not get an overwhelming advantage on that start. He didn't get an unfair advantage on that restart.
He absolutely did.
No, he did not.
First, Kirk.
Because if Tony Stewart hadn't slowed up or spun his tires and spun around, a guy ran into the back of him.
Let me ask you this. All right, I put this to you yesterday. First of all, the fact is that he started before the start zone. The rule states start between point A and point B, period.
Technically, he did move out in front of Tony Stewart before the zone. You're right about that.
So he jumped the start.
But he didn't get an unfair advantage on that restart. It was too harsh a penalty for him.
Kirk.
They should have let it go.
They should have.
At the very least,
Oh, you know what? You didn't.
At the very least, Scott, they should have waved the yellow and done a redo again. Based on the problems Tony Stewart had on that start. Tony Stewart was spinning his tires.
Have you ever seen anybody in a NASCAR race, that was a bad start, let's restart the race? Are you kidding me? This isn't Saturday night racing.
Double file restarts where the front 2 starters are side by side coming out for the restart. There was confusion anyway with the scoring.
Kirk, it doesn't matter.
There was confusion anyway with the scoring and who was the leader of the race.
All right. You
let it go.
You've said enough. Now let me say something, all right? The fact is there's a start zone. The rule says you're supposed to start between point A and point B.
What the rule
let me finish, would you? Just let me finish. You're supposed to start between point A and point B. It doesn't matter who the leader was. Put all that aside. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the scoring pylon said. It doesn't matter. Those 2 cars are starting next to each other, side by side. Neither car, no matter who was leading, was not supposed to start the race before the start zone. He started before the start zone. He gets penalized. That's the rule. We don't make judgment calls.
What's Edwards supposed to do? Slam on his brakes to stay even with the quote-unquote leader?
I said what he's supposed to do, Kirk. He's supposed to wait till the start zone. That's what he's supposed to do. If Tony Stewart spun his tires down the back straightaway, does that give Carl enough reason?
Oh, come on. That wasn't even coming out of turn 4.
All right, let me ask you this.
We're coming out
like
of turn
I said,
4
Kirk, yesterday on Between the Lines. If you're sitting, and you answer this question, and this is the only way I could compare to what happened. If you're sitting at an intersection up here at 23rd and Sterling, right? You're sitting at a red light, right? Exactly. And you decide to go before the light turns green, and you go through that intersection. Did you run the red? Just answer it yes or no.
Yes.
Okay.
But that's a bad analogy.
Hold on.
That's a bad
no,
analogy.
It isn't.
Yes, it is.
No, it isn't, because he ran. Basically, he started before he was supposed to. If you run that red light, if you go through that red light before the light turns green, are you going to get a ticket? If a cop sees you?
Well, what's that have to do with
it's
racing
the same thing.
On a racetrack?
The starting point between A and B is the green light. The point A, where you're supposed to start by, or the minimum position that you can, or place on the track that you can start by, that is the green light. He took off before the green light, basically.
The leader, Tony Stewart, didn't maintain his pace coming out of turn 4.
He didn't have to, Kirk. He didn't have to.
Yes, he does.
Before the start zone? Who says that you have to?
Maintain the pace.
Kirk, all he had to do is...
He didn't do that.
He did, too. He maintained the pace with the pace car. Did they penalize Tony Stewart?
The pace car had already pulled off into the pit road by that time.
You know why Tony Stewart probably buzzed his tires anyway?
He was playing games with Carl. No.
I'm going to be fair here and say, all right, Tony's trying to switch up the start, and I'm all for that. But the fact of the matter is, the person that was really playing games on that start was Carl Edwards.
No.
He started before the start zone.
No.
So that's just okay.
He was told, and it was posted on the scoring pylon, that he was the leader.
It doesn't matter.
The leader has control of the restart coming out of the 4th turn. He's the guy that
Kirk,
maintained.
do you not understand
the
the rules?
I do understand.
What's the rule?
The rule is there is the starting zone.
And
you're right about that.
And where are you supposed to start? Hold on, let me ask you
that's
this. That's
where the leader accelerates.
Where are they supposed to start?
In the zone.
Did he start within the zone?
He maintained his
pace.
No.
Did he start in the zone?
No, he did not.
Then he should have been penalized.
In my opinion.
He should have been penalized.
In my opinion.
It's a rule.
He moved out in front of Tony Stewart, as you say, before the zone. That is true. The problem with that is Tony Stewart, the leader, according to NASCAR, slowed down. And
it doesn't matter. He wasn't in the end zone.
He had a car move into the back of him. What is Carl supposed to do?
Kirk, I would agree with you if they were in the start zone, but they weren't. See, there's rules. You don't make
too harsh a penalty.
No, it isn't. That's the rule. The rule states that if you jump the start, that's the penalty that you receive. And that's what happened. It's exactly what happened.
They should have done is throw the yellow again and restart the race again.
This isn't Lakeside Speedway, bud. This ain't Valley Speedway.
Carl Edwards should not have been penalized on that. Way too harsh penalty.
All right, Kirk. So now they throw a caution, but now everybody backs up because they're not expecting the caution and somebody gets wrecked. Is that fair?
No, you throw the green and then throw the caution again and then line them back up the way they were and started again. That's what they should have done if they thought that Carl Edwards was posing some
I've never known you to go against what the written rule is, and that's what you're doing right here. The written rule.
Sometimes you got to make a judgment call. Use some common sense for
judgment calls are the worst thing in motorsports. We've talked about this, Kirk. Judgment calls. You want to eliminate judgment calls.
Sports are played by human beings, officiated by human beings. Use your head once in a while.
There is a black and white rule that says if you don't start between point A and point B of the start zone, you will be penalized. NASCAR did exactly that. That's exactly what they did.
We agree to disagree.
All right, 913-3810810. We still got Chris on the line?
Yeah.
All right, Chris, you're on with the Racing Boys.
You guys are cracking me up. You know what? I never met either one of you personally, but by God, I hope you're friends.
Oh, yeah.
We're like brothers. That's why we argue like this. That's right.
Oh, sure.
You guys really get after it. Hey, I want to play devil's advocate on this young fellow that's 13 years old. And I think I'm like you guys. I'd love to see him race. In fact, if he was in the Kansas City area, I live in Raytown. I'd drive to Lakeside to watch him. I really would.
Well,
but anyway,
you can go watch him out at Valley Speedway. That's where he races.
He'll be there tonight.
Really?
Yes,
well,
sir.
That sounds like a deal. But here's what I wanted to put into the program today. What happens if that young man at 13 years old gets seriously injured and, heaven forbid, even gets killed in a race? Don't you think that the news media will have a heyday on that deal?
Yeah, but
just crucify racing?
What is different about young 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old kids racing go-karts out here at Thunder Lake Speedway? What's different about that?
You know what? I thought about that. I really did, but my feelings, and I have never gone there and personally watched them. Okay, but I got to have a feeling that that's pretty well controlled.
Let me ask you this, Chris.
Just because they're racing against adults changes
hold
that?
on. No, let's just think about this for a second, Chris. Let me ask you this. Do you think the media would have a heyday in slam racing if a 45-year-old got killed? Absolutely. No, they would. The fact of the matter is, mainstream media, not motorsports media, the mainstream media, our local media, national media, if somebody is to get killed in a race car, they take that opportunity more times than not to look down on our sport. And it doesn't matter the age of the driver. Would it be magnified by having a 13-year-old? Probably so. But the fact is that the vultures would come out if it was a 45-year-old as well.
But you understand, that's why I made the phone call, because I just wanted to interject that because we hadn't really talked about that case scenario.
Yeah.
Fair point.
Fair point, Chris. Good call, buddy. Thank you.
Hey, guys, I love listening to you. You're great. Thanks.
All right, thank you. 913-3810-810. 913-3810-810.
Well, you talk about it, a 13-year-old kid getting hurt at the racetrack. What's different about that than some young kid that's way younger than him getting hurt at the
listen,
race?
What
changes
point.
that the fact that a 13-year-old kid is racing against adults? Does that change it in the minds of a lot of people?
Some. I do agree. I totally get Chris's point.
Because they're just as
Would it be worse with a 13-year-old?
These...
Absolutely.
Right.
But the fact is, Kirk, that, and I don't really want to get up on this pedestal, but I guess I'm going to because I thought about it after Kansas Speedway weekend. The fact is that most people in this town, media-wise, they could give a rat's ass about motorsports. It's a fact. I mean, let's face it, radio and television. There's people that just won't give motorsports 2 minutes. It's a fact. And it's a scam. I will tell you, I was so disappointed. And I am every year, so maybe I shouldn't even say this. It was this last time. I mean, it's every year. Sometimes I am blown away by the people. We have a big weekend of NASCAR going on, and I'll leave the stations out that come out to the racetrack, and I'll leave them out the ones that don't. I won't mention anybody. But the fact is that some of them, it's like it's not even here. They'd rather talk about these freaking Royals out here losing. I mean, playing terrible baseball. Just horrible team that we've had this year. And believe me, I'd like to see the Royals win. Don't get that wrong. But the fact is, they regurgitate over and over and over and over and over the Royals, and we've got a big NASCAR event out here and not a word about it.
Well, a lot of it is the product
and the fact
of what
is,
you grew
Kirk,
up around, Scott.
No. This is a major sporting event in our city. There's 70,000 people in the grandstands at Kansas Speedway, and we want to talk about the 10,000 people that are in the stands at Kauffman Stadium.
Well, let's be honest. A lot of the media members that cover sports didn't grow up around racing like you and I did. So they don't understand the culture of it or
Kirk,
they just didn't grow up around it. So they're likely not to cover it the same way they do
the
other
fact
sports
is,
they did grow up around.
Let me tell you this. The fact is that a lot of these people that cover sports around here didn't go and follow soccer. You know?
Well, a lot of their kids
now
grew
they're
up playing soccer. A lot of their kids grew up playing soccer, and their kids love soccer, and that's why they're covering soccer.
We're only talking about 2 days a weekend. Get off your ass and cover Kansas Speedway, please.
Well, I think the media, for the most part, does a decent job
covering
motorsports in this town.
Again, don't take me down the road and mentioning names, because we know the people that go to the Speedway. No, I'm not talking about them.